all the money he'd taken in a large bag when a masked man produced a gun and held him up. "Hand over the money," he growled. And the frightened cashier pushed the bag across to him. The masked man darted around the corner and took off his mask. He looked at his gun, which was a toy one really, fired it, and produced a flag. Then he made off into the crowds. The ref blew his whistle, and the game started with plenty of activity to keep the spectators happy. The ball was booted around between the two evenly matched sides until the cry went up, "Goal!" and cheering broke out. And while the spectators were watching the game, the alarm had been raised and the police were hunting the robber. The robber knew that by now the police would be searching for him, and he began looking for some sort of disguise which would make him look like a spectator. He caught sight of Skeets's scarf, which he'd pushed into his pocket, and decided it was just the thing he was looking for. He gently pulled it from the trouser pocket, not knowing that the invisible little green man and Zoom Zoom were watching. They followed the robber as he sneaked away wearing Skeets's scarf round his neck. Two policemen were at the gate talking about the robbery, and the little green man soon realized what was happening. He also saw that the policeman had not spotted the robber wearing his disguise, and he decided to give them just the help they needed. He quickly whispered in Zoom Zoom's ear, and Zoom Zoom took up his position right in front of the robber's feet. He tripped and fell right into the arms of the two policemen. The two policemen thought he was an honest football fan, however, and picked him up and dusted him down. "There you are, sir. Good as new," said one of the policemen, whilst the other handed him his case, never guessing that it contained the stolen bag of money. Said the little green man. "Drat! He's going to get away!" The robber, still afraid of the policeman, put his face into the scarf and made off into the crowds again. The little green man followed him and saw him stealthily sneak into the dressing rooms below the stands. Downstairs, where there was no one at all around, the little green man gasped when he saw how many trophies were on display. Oh, this team must have been very good at one.
Other farmers might envy. In another part of Tayside, Mervyn Brown has a hill farm on the north-facing slopes above Loch Tay.
Well, this is...
Noises from a distance sent them rushing down the corridor to the shower room. Peeping along the cubicle, to find the robber calmly taking a shower and singing away at the top of his voice.
Oh, perhaps you're...
What a nerve, said the little green man. Every policeman in the ground looking for him, and he's calmly taking a shower. Another noise made the little green man take a look down the corridor, and he was delighted to see a policeman bounding down towards the showers. Said the little green man. "Watch this, Zoom Zoom. Here's where our cheeky robber gets caught." The policeman entered and looked at the figure in the shower. Excuse me, sir," began the policeman, "but have you seen anything of a robber around here?" The robber stopped singing and put his head out of the shower. "No one but me around here," he said, and went on singing. All right, sir." The policeman stood at the door and scratched his head, whilst the little green man was furious that the robber was slipping through the policeman's fingers again. He said to Zoom Zoom, "Let's see if we can make that policeman look a bit harder at our friend in the shower." He produced his antennae, which sparked and crackled as he pointed them toward the shower. The magic rays reached the shower, and it turned round to throw a stream of water straight at the policeman. "Naughty, naughty, sir," said the policeman, as the horrified robber turned off the water. I thought you looked hot and bothered and would like a freshener up, said the wily robber. Oh, that was very kind of you, but I've no time for that now. I must be off to find the ruffian who stole the money, he said. And off he went, leaving the little green man and Zoom Zoom feeling very cross indeed. The little green man's jaw sagged when the robber quickly sprang into the corridor and began scooping up a beautiful display of trophies, the best of which he stuffed into his case, which was now bulging. The little green man followed hot on the heels of the robber as he slipped into the crowds again. The robber made for the main gate again, hoping to make his escape this time. The little green man whispered into Zoom Zoom's ear once more, and Zoom Zoom shot off to trip the robber up again. This proved to be rather difficult, as the robber, who was walking backwards and forwards, dodged Zoom Zoom every time. It was only when Zoom Zoom had stopped trying that the robber did fall over him, completely accidentally. He fell even more heavily this time and landed out of breath at the policeman's feet once more. "Well, if it isn't you again, sir," said the policeman, while the other started to dust him down. "You seem to be making a habit of falling about the place, don't you? Determined to drop in and see us, as you might say." Before the policeman could find the robber's case to hand back to him, the little green man produced his antennae and, just as the policeman stretched out to recover it, the little green man's magic rays reached the locks and they flew open. Out spilled the cups all over the ground. "Hello, hello, hello. And what have we here?" In no time at all, the policeman had found the bag of money also. "That's him," cried the cashier, rushing out of his office. "I recognize him from the back. Oh, how very clever of you to catch him before he got out of the ground." The policeman beamed, and so did the little green man and Zoom Zoom. The little green man stuffed Skeets's scarf back in his pocket for him. "Did I drop it?" he asked. "Where have you been anyway? You've missed 3 goals and bags of excitement." The little green man turned. He said, "Well, really."
Oh, really? And at the same time next Wednesday, watch out for the Raggy Dolls. But coming up next today, it's Tweety Pie.
Skeets heard a noise and ran over to the window to look out. He saw a light in the sky and watched as it descended to Earth. The light proved to be a small spaceship which hovered for a while over Skeets's back lawn and then slowly landed at the bottom of the garden. Out of the spacecraft popped a little roly-poly green figure, followed by a flying fluffy yellow ball. Skeets ran down the garden to meet the strange little man and the fluffy yellow ball, both of whom seemed very friendly. "Hello," said Skeets. "Who are you? Where have you come from?" said the little roly-poly figure, which meant, "Well, I've come from a great way off to talk to Sidney Keats. Is that your name?" Skeets found that he could understand perfectly. "Yes," he replied, "I'm Sidney Keats, but my friends usually call me Skeets. Skeets is my nickname." "May I come inside your house and talk to you, Skeets?" asked the little man. "I've come a long, long way to see you." "Of course," said Skeets. "But what do I tell my mum if she sees you?" said the little green man. "Don't worry. You're the only one who can see or hear me. No one else." "Wow!" exclaimed Skeets. "Wait till I tell my friends all about you and the way your spaceship landed." said the little green man. "Would you mind if we kept it a secret?" Skeets led the little green man and Zoom Zoom up to the house and told him to wait, as he thought it best if he opened a window for him. The tubby little man and the fluffy flying ball soon hopped inside, and the little man introduced himself to Skeets properly. Shaking hands with Skeets, he said, which meant, "In your language, my name means Little Green Man. Oh, this is my pet, Zoom Zoom." "Oh, I'm pleased to meet you," said Skeets. "And you too, Zoom Zoom. I think I'll call you Greenie, if you don't mind. Sit down and tell me more about yourself." Little Green Man sat down and explained that he came from the planet Zombazand, which was way out in outer space. "It's right up there," he said, pointing up to the sky, "and it takes a long, long time to get here." Sitting down again, he went on to tell Skeets that he'd come to Earth to learn about Earth children, the things Earth children do and are interested in. "And through my magic powers, I chose you to be my friend. You will help me to learn about Earth, won't you?" Zoom Zoom smuggled into Skeets's cheek, as though to try to persuade him. "Stop it, Zoom Zoom," cried Skeets with a laugh. "You're tickling me. Of course I'll help you. But are you sure no one else will be able to see you both?" said the little green man. "It's as simple as this. Anyone else sees and hears?" Precisely nothing. "Wow!" cried Skeets. "Now isn't that something? But tomorrow, when it's light, everyone will see your spaceship." "Oh, no, they won't," said the little green man, hopping over to the window again. He magically produced 2 antennae from his head and directed them at the spacecraft. The antennae began to spark and crackle, and a magic ray streaked out across the garden and engulfed the ship. In a few moments, there was nothing to be seen. "Wow," said Skeets again. "Can you do absolutely anything?" "Well, I wouldn't say anything," said the little green man, "but I can do a great many useful things. Zoom Zoom has a fair bit of magic power, too, when he decides to use it." Demonstrating his magic powers, Zoom Zoom made his bottom right quarter disappear, then his top left quarter, and so on. The game went on with parts of the little fluffy fellow disappearing and reappearing, and the show seemed very impressive. Until... oh, dear. Whoops! "Where's he gone?" asked Skeets. "Is he all right?" said the little green man. "He's a bit of a show-off and sometimes gets his magic muddled up. Just hang on a minute and see what happens." Some little popping noises were heard, and with a loud pop, a rather harassed Zoom Zoom reappeared, smiling an engaging, embarrassed smile, and everyone laughed. "Can Zoom Zoom talk?" asked Skeets. No, but he can make himself completely understood," said the little green man. The little green man and Skeets then had a long chat about games and toys and books. They were quickly learning a great deal about each other when they were startled to hear a bell ringing outside. "That's not me," said the little green man. "I'm not making the bell ring." "Oh, I know," cried Skeets, leaping to his feet and crossing to a window. "That's a fire engine bell. I wonder where the fire is." "What's a fire engine?" asked the little green man. "Is it important?" "Haven't you ever seen one?" Skeets asked. "They save buildings from burning down, and they save lots of lives, too." "Come on, let's follow it." They ran down the street and turned a corner to see a blaze of the building in the distance. "That's the children's hospital on fire," cried Skeets, and the little green man and Zoom Zoom looked dismayed. "Let's go and see if we can give them some help." They ran down the street and stood by the firemen, who were telling reporters how they had rescued some of the children, but then the escape chute had caught fire. They'd sent for another, but they thought it would take a long time to come. In the meanwhile, the fire was getting worse. "Can you help them, Greenie?" asked Skeets. "There are lots of children still inside." The little green man saw a piece of hosepipe on the ground. "Said the little green man. "Tell them that you will bring something which will help," he said. And while Skeets was passing on his message, the little green man placed the hosepipe on the ground round the corner out of sight. He produced his antennae, from which rays went out directly to the hosepipe, and it began to grow. It grew and grew until it was big enough for even the biggest child to slide through it. "Hurry up, Skeets, and take this to them," called the little green man. Skeets hauled the huge hose round the corner, and when the firemen saw it, they ran to help pull it up to the building. Climbing up the ladders, they soon had it fixed into position, and one by one, the children slid down inside it to safety. Children were delighted, firemen were delighted, and Skeets and his two friends were delighted too. When the children were out of the building, the firemen tackled the blaze and soon had it under control. Before long, the fire was completely out. The children had been taken away a few at a time to other hospitals, and the little green man and Zoom Zoom had been fascinated by the whole thing. When no one was looking, the little green man took away the huge hose and returned it to its normal size. He then ran round the corner to join Skeets and see the fire engine again when, oh dear, he tripped and landed on his nose just as the firemen were carrying away their ladders, and they couldn't see him, of course. He stood up quickly, and his head got stuck in the rungs of the ladder. The fireman placed the ladder against the fire engine, and the little green man wriggled to try and free himself. He managed to wedge one foot in an empty bucket and the other in a fireman's helmet, and neither would come off. Skeets and Zoom Zoom ran to the rescue, and they soon freed the unhappy little green man. Skeets and Zoom Zoom smiled. "Poor old Greenie. It looks like you're the only one to get hurt in this fire." The little green man turned. He said, "Well, really?" The little green man had never seen snow before. It fascinated him, and he could not wait to get into a full-scale snow fight with Skeets. The little green man, with a sly grin, used his magic powers to dodge Skeets' snowballs and to make his own land on Skeets. though Zoom Zoom added a bit of his own magic to make sure the fight was fair. And just for luck, he settled matters with the bad-tempered Tom from next door while he had the chance. After breakfast, Skeets took the little green man and Zoom Zoom to a hillside near the pond, which was frozen solid. He showed the little green man how to use a sledge, and then left him whizzing around with Zoom Zoom whilst he went down to the pond to do some skating. The little green man had never enjoyed anything quite as much, though he soon tired of pulling the sledge back up the hill every time, and had the brainwave to switch to his supersonic travelling system. Anyone watching would have believed that he was seeing a sledge climb the hill all by itself. But no one can see the little green man and Zoom Zoom except Skeets. And us, of course. Luckily, the few people who were out that morning were too busy with their own fun to notice. On his last run down the hill, the little green man looked ahead of him and to his horror saw Skeets, his eyes tight shut, skating towards the part of the pond where the ice was broken up. The little green man almost took off the speed at which he flew down the hillside, and in the nick of time, he scooped Skeets up just as he was about to skate onto the broken ice. They finished up safe and sound on the other side of the pond. "Oh, gosh, thanks, Greenie," grinned Skeets. "I didn't see the broken ice. I guess I wasn't looking where I was going." I may not always be around when you're being silly, so watch it, young man. The mobile hamburger store came by, and they all had steaming hot tea and hamburgers sitting on the sledge while they recovered from the excitement of Skeets' rescue. Skeets was telling the little green man about those lands where it was snowy all the year round, and how they sometimes lived in igloos. Asked the little green man. "What are they?" Well, houses made of blocks of frozen snow," answered Skeets. "Let's go and see if we can make one, shall we?" The little green man was responsible for making the snow blocks, though Skeets had a strong suspicion that the beautiful, solid snow blocks he produced were entirely produced by magic. Skeets and Zoom Zoom worked together building the igloo. Zoom Zoom found the going rather hard, and was soon using his magic to take the weight out of his work. When it was finished, the igloo looked beautiful, and the three friends rested inside. As the little green man's magic wore off the ice blocks, they went soft again, however, and the snow house collapsed. "Are you three all right in there?" "Ah, here they are, safe and sound. But where's Zoom Zoom?" "Last but not least, you three had better find something to do that keeps you out of trouble." They decided that they couldn't get into any trouble building snowmen, and Skeets quickly showed the little green man and Zoom Zoom how it was done. By lunchtime, Skeets had built 3 burly snowmen, and he went to count how many the little green man had completed. To his amazement, the little green man had built lots and lots, and had stopped to watch some men trying to dig a bus out of deep snow. The bus was full of children, and Skeets explained to the little green man that they were all going to a party in the next village. "Oh, they'll be so disappointed if they're not able to get there," he said. The men dug and dug, but the bus made no progress. The snow seemed now to be falling as fast as the men were clearing it. The little green man watched and watched, hoping every time they tried starting the bus up that it would chug away down the road. But the men seemed to be getting very tired, and were inclined to give up. "Can you do anything, Greenie?" asked Skeets. The little green man looked very thoughtful, and suddenly he bounced to his feet and turned to the little army of snowmen he had made. He cried, which meant, "Better than me helping, why don't they help?" "What do you mean?" asked Skeets. "How can men made of snow do anything to help?" said the little green man, which meant, "Watch this." He turned to the nearest snowman and produced his antennae, from which there came a spark and a crackle. The snowman magically turned into a real man and set off jauntily down the lane towards the bus. Turning to the second snowman, he did the same thing again, and another little man was soon on the heels of the first. Then the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, and soon a whole army of helpers were picking up shovels to dig out the children's bus. "Don't forget my three," cried the delighted Skeets when the little green man had dispatched the last of his snowmen down the lane. And the little green man soon had them following the others. The three friends sat and watched as the snowmen threw all the snow into piles at the side of the road. And it seemed no time at all before the driver was ready to try again. He started up the bus, and to the loud cheers of the children, it began slowly to make its way along the road. "Thank you! Thank you!" cried the children from the windows to the snowmen. Hands were waving everywhere. The snowmen began plodding up the lane again and took their places where they had been before. Before long, every snowman was in his place. "Swallow, said the little green man. "Thank you, snowman," he said. "Yes, thank you very much," said Skeets. "The children would never have got to their party without your help." The little green man's antennae appeared again, and they sparked and crackled in the direction of the snowmen. Zoom Zoom had somehow got into the line of fire, however, and the little green man's magical rays seemed to chase him about. He suddenly ducked into a huge pile of snow, and the rays then went where they were supposed to go, to the snowmen, who were all standing chuckling at poor old Zoom Zoom. They were soon exactly as they had been before, plain, ordinary snowmen, though Zoom Zoom was certain that one particular snowman now had a smile he had not had before. "Thank you for all your help, Greenie," said Skeets. "It was all your doing, really." The little green man had put on Skeets' skates and was hobbling over to the pond. "Careful, Greenie," called Skeets. But the little green man turned and waved in a very confident manner. He launched himself onto the pond, and oh dear, after the most spectacular performance, he sat down with a sudden and undignified plop. Skeets tried hard to hide a grin, though Zoom Zoom hooted with laughter. Said the little green man. Well, really. The little green man and Zoom Zoom had a wonderful time at the air display with Skeets. Of course, the aeroplanes all seemed very old-fashioned to the little visitor from out of space, and the little green man did his best to explain to Skeets that aircraft were very different where he came from. Skeets was, as you might imagine, very impressed by the little green man's stories. While they were waiting for the last event of the day, a balloon flight, Zoom Zoom amused the little green man and Skeets by doing his impressions of the aeroplanes they'd been watching, which they thought was great fun. The balloon flight fascinated the little green man and Zoom Zoom, but they'd never seen anything quite like that before. They watched in rapture until the balloon was out of sight and the display was at an end. As they walked away from the field, passing the tea shop, they saw a man selling balloons. Said the little green man. Please, may I have a balloon, Skeets? I've a lovely idea. Skeets took the little green man across to the balloon seller and bought him a lovely big red balloon. The little green man's eyes twinkled as he searched Skeets's picnic basket for something else. You'll soon see, he said, producing a beaker with a thick ridge round the top. He tied the string from the balloon round the beaker and set it on the ground, the balloon resting on the top of the beaker. The little green man's antennae began to spark and crackle as he pointed them towards the balloon. And it began to grow and grow. So did the beaker. And soon they had a beautiful flying balloon, just like the one they'd been watching a little earlier. Come on, get in, cried the little green man, lifting Zoom Zoom into the beaker, which was now big enough for them all to get inside. I've worked out how to make it go. It'll be quite safe. Here goes. With everyone inside the beaker and the little green man's magic power in action again, the balloon began to rise. Soon they were floating along, looking down on the hills, the fields, and the streams. "Oh, this is wonderful, Greenie," said Skeets. "It all looks so beautiful and so peaceful from up here." The little green man and Zoom Zoom were greatly enjoying it too, with the little green man giving off a crackle or two each time he wanted to change direction. They drifted out over the lake and began to watch the only boat sailing about on it. Zoom Zoom kept forgetting they were at a great height, and every now and then, when he stopped and thought about it, he plopped down magnificently like a stone. There was a man and a woman with 2 children aboard the little craft on the lake, and they all waved at Skeets as the balloon flew over them. Since no one except Skeets and us can see the little green man and Zoom Zoom, they must have wondered what a small boy was doing flying a balloon all by himself. They drifted further over the lake and in between the hills, but there were no other boats out sailing that day. After a while, Skeets became aware that Zoom Zoom was not in sight, and he asked the little green man if he knew where he was. "No," said Greenie, becoming quite puzzled. "I'm sure he can take care of himself, but it is certainly puzzling how he can hide from us in a balloon." Mischievous Zoom Zoom joined the others, and they drifted happily on for some time before Skeets said to the little green man, "Oh, let's turn back now, Greenie. It'll soon be supper time." The little green man twitched his antennae, and the balloon gently turned and headed back down the center of the lake again. They were all watching carefully for the family in the boat as they skimmed along back to the airfield, and it was the little green man who saw them first. He cried in alarm. "Look, their boat is overturned and is sinking. They're all clinging to the bottom of their upturned yacht." Skeets bounced up and down with agitation. "Do something, Greenie! Please, do something!" he shouted. And the antennae of the little green man's head began to spark and crackle as they'd never sparked and crackled before. They zoomed along at a great speed, just above the level of the water, until they came to a stop alongside the family on the sinking boat. "Climb aboard!" shouted Skeets, remembering that they could only see him aboard the balloon. "Oh, how wonderful!" cried the man as he passed his children aboard the balloon before clambering up himself. "Our boat capsized, and we thought we were done for," he said. "How can we ever thank you?" But Skeets was so delighted with the rescue that he had no thought of thanks. Besides, how could he explain that it was the little green man who'd saved them, really? He watched the little green man steer the balloon away and across the lake to the landing stage, where people were already beginning to gather, wondering what had become of the family who had set sail in the small boat. They arrived safely and climbed out, telling the people how wonderfully they had been rescued by Skeets in his balloon, while the little green man made ready for a quick takeoff before the curious people had time to start asking questions. Skeets quickly said goodbye to the grateful family, who were now wrapped in blankets to keep them warm. Everyone waved as the balloon smoothly took off again, the little green man and Zoom Zoom being quite invisible to the onlookers, of course. And there was no time at all before it was a mere speck in the distance. They circled the airfield before going into land, noticing that all the people who'd been at the air display had now gone home. Stepping out of the beaker, Skeets said, "Thank you, Greenie. That was really terrific. Oh, I had a lovely time. We really must do it again sometime." The little green man and Zoom Zoom jumped out, and the little green man at once produced his antennae to return the balloon and the beaker to their normal sizes. His antennae made their usual crackling noise as the balloon and beaker began to shrink, and very soon all was done. Skeets packed the beaker away in his picnic basket, holding the red balloon in his other hand. "Did you enjoy it, Zoom Zoom?" Zoom Zoom nodded vigorously, did a couple of circular zooms. He then leapt up and planted a big kiss on the balloon, which at once burst and began flying around the little green man's head, much to his bewilderment and discomfort. With one last gasp, which it gave right in front of the little green man, the balloon fell limply to the ground. Skeets and Zoom Zoom howled with delight at the sight of the little green man in such a tiz. Said the little green man. "Well, really." Skeets had just finished reading Alice Through the Looking Glass to the little green man and Zoom Zoom, and Greenie was asking questions about the strange things that happened to Alice. Asked the little green man, which meant, "Do you know of any other people who stepped through mirrors?" "Oh, no. It couldn't really happen. The Alice stories are just make-believe. Wouldn't it be fabulous if we could step through the looking glass?" Said the little green man. "It shouldn't be too difficult. Let's have a look at the big mirror behind your dressing table." Skeets led the little green man and Zoom Zoom to his bedroom, where the little green man viewed himself in the mirror. "Who's coming with me?" he asked. "Who wants a trip into Fantasyland through the mirror?" The little green man pressed his fingers on the surface of the mirror. One leg went straight through, and soon his whole body was on the other side. Skeets and Zoom Zoom looked at each other and followed the little green man. They found themselves in a strange room. The furniture was rough but attractive, and all the colors were different shades of pink, with the odd touch of white. And another strange thing, there was no door. The little green man and Skeets went to the window and opened it, and the three friends were soon standing outside in a small garden which overlooked a street. Hardly had they put their feet on the ground when they heard a cry.
Arrest them! Arrest them for breaking out!
The person shouting was a
Arrest
policeman,
them for breaking
an
out!
odd-looking policeman. His face was quite blue, completely blue. They ran down the street in the opposite direction to the officer, who started to run after them. They ran past a high hedge, at the end of which a tubby man, who was also blue, peeped out. "Here! Here!" he called, and the friends ran through an open gate. When the gate closed behind them, they could no longer hear the policeman. They mopped their brows. "Unburglars, are you?" asked the man. "Unburglars? What's an unburglar?" asked Skeets. "Oh, they are people who break out of houses. Unburglars," said the man. "Where we come from, it's people who break into houses who get into trouble. And they are burglars, not unburglars." "Yes, but you are in the uncountry now, where so many things are the opposite way round from the real world." "And everyone is blue," exclaimed Skeets. "Blue?" snorted the tubby man. "Don't be rude. We are all pink. You are the blue one, and he is yellow," he said, pointing to the little green man. "And the fluffy one is green." Skeets raised his eyes. He saw that everything really was different here. He noticed that the blue people could see the little green man and Zoom Zoom, too. "It's very insulting to be called blue when you're pink," he said. "How would you like being called purple?" Skeets spluttered that he really wouldn't mind, but he began to edge away. When the little green man and Zoom Zoom were watching him, Skeets jerked his head as a signal, and they began to run again, down the path and among the trees. They had not gone far when a huge cat with a sneaky look on its face stepped out from behind a tree and beckoned them. "Here!" he called. "Here!" He opened up the foliage for them to squeeze through. "A cat?" said Skeets, looking in wonderment. "A talking cat." "How silly of you," said the cat indignantly. "Anyone could see I'm a perfectly ordinary mouse. Is there something wrong with you fellows, apart from your curious colour?" Skeets looked at the little green man, who shrugged his shoulders. "Well, whoever you are, thank you very much," said Skeets. "Can you direct us to a safe place where we won't be chased anymore?" he asked. Try my hole. It's over there," said the cat, indicating the entrance to a tunnel. Without waiting for further invitations, Skeets, the little green man, and Zoom Zoom darted down the tunnel as fast as they could go, followed by the cat. At the other end of the tunnel, they found themselves in a marketplace. Skeets whooped with glee when he saw a man selling hot dogs. "I think I'll buy us all a hot dog," he said. "You mean a hot cat, don't you? Don't bother with one for me," said the cat. "I'm off if you're hot cat eaters." And with that, he ran off, leaving the three friends to make their way over to the hot dog seller. Three hot cats, please," said Skeets, passing over his money. "Are you paying for these?" demanded the man. "Don't you know what's against anything around here?" "Help! Police!" he cried. Skeets, the little Zoom Zoom, shot off between the stalls and ran for all they were worth. They didn't see a sign which said, "To the police station," and in no time at all, they were all locked up. Sitting in a cell, feeling sorry for himself, Skeets turned to the little green man and said, "Can't you do something to help us, Greenie?" The little green man grinned and quickly produced his antennae, which began to spark and crackle. He directed their rays to the bars of the window, and in no time at all, they tumbled to the ground. The three friends quickly climbed out of the window and landed straight away in the arms of a policeman. Breaking out again, I see, he said, and always running. He sat Skeets and the little green man down and released Zoom Zoom from beneath his helmet. Running, he said. Now that might be the answer. You could all run in the big race today. And if you do well, we'll set you free. The big race was to be quite a great sporting event. The policeman was there to start it, and because everyone ran round in a huge circle, he was also to judge the winners. The gun was fired, and off everyone set. Skeets was surprised that the competitors took it so easily, stopping for rests fairly often. He and the little green man with Zoom Zoom right behind soon opened up a big lead. It seemed no time at all before the three friends were fighting it out between them who was to cross the winning line first. And, as it happened, they all crossed together. Dear me, said the policeman, you don't seem to have the sense you were born with. I gave you the chance to do well and to have your freedom, and you completely waste it. What do you mean? Skeets asked. We all crossed the winning line together, miles ahead of the others. You don't seem very bright, said the policeman. The people who win our races are the people who come in last. It's an unrace, you see. So you did worst of all. Pity. Come on, yelled Skeets to the little green man and Zoom Zoom. Let's get out of here. And they dashed off before the policeman or anyone else realized what they were doing. They ran as fast as their legs could carry them to the marketplace, through the tunnel, across the glade, and back to the pink room. The policemen with a crowd of helpers were on their heels, and they pulled at Skeets as the little green man and Zoom Zoom pushed through the mirror to safety. Poor Skeets was being carried away, struggling by two burly men, as he woke to find that he was in his bed, struggling away with the little green man beside him, trying to calm him down. Gosh, so it was only a dream, Greenie, grinned Skeets. It was a bit of a nightmare, really. And he told the little green man and Zoom Zoom all about it. The little green man looked just a bit cross. You mean they nearly got the better of us, he said. Just you wait, I'll show them. He climbed up onto the dressing table and looked in the mirror. It's no good, Greenie. It was all a dream. You can't really go through the looking glass. But the little green man was pushing through the glass, and he completely disappeared. Skeets and Zoom Zoom looked at each other as they heard a fearful din coming from the other side of the mirror. And they were both relieved when the little green man quickly popped back, though he was a very tattered little green man indeed. He said, well, really. Skeets had taken the little green man and Zoom Zoom to look around Blackbridge Castle, but to their dismay, the notice said there would be no guided tours today. The man at the door said he was very sorry, but there was nothing he could do about it. Of course, you could always look around on your own, if you kept out of trouble, he said. Skeets thanked him very much, and watched by the beaming doorkeeper, he made off across the courtyard of the castle. Scampering after him came the little green man and Zoom Zoom, though the doorkeeper could only see Skeets, as the little green man and Zoom Zoom are quite invisible to everyone except Skeets. And you and me, of course. Entering the castle, Skeets and his friends climbed the main staircase, to be confronted by a row of suits of armor. Said the little green man, which meant, these are very strange spacesuits. Spacesuits? Laughed Skeets. They're not spacesuits. They were used hundreds of years ago as protection from lances, arrows, and swords. Said the little green man, which meant, you seem to know a lot about this place. Have you been here before? Many times, said Skeets. I could give you the guided tour myself. Are there some parts of the castle you've never seen before? Asked the little green man. It'd be fun to explore them now, and I can see the guided tour parts another time. Good idea, exclaimed Skeets. There are lots of places the guide doesn't let us see. Up the tower, for instance. Come on. They soon found themselves in a dark room high up in the tower, full of interesting old weapons, guns, spears, swords, lances, and bows and arrows. At the other end of the room, a door stood ajar, and a curious noise could be heard from one of the rooms beyond it.
Ah, well.
"Did you hear that?" asked Skeets. Both the little green man and Zoom Zoom nodded. "Somebody sounds very unhappy," said the little green man. They found the room the noise was coming from and pulled the door gently open so that they could see inside. But it made an incredibly loud creaking noise. When the friends looked at first, they saw no one, but as they stared, a trembling man popped up from behind the settee.
Who are you?"
He asked, his voice quivering. "Oh, just a visitor," replied Skeets. "Who are you?"
Me? Oh, I'm the Duke. I own this place. I was frightened to death when I heard you. I thought you were someone coming to throw me out."
The Duke produced his handkerchief.
Oh, to think of this lovely old castle becoming a ruin. Oh, isn't it sad?
"But why are you being thrown out?" asked Skeets. "Have you done something wrong?" The little green man looked from Skeets to the Duke to hear the answer.
No, nothing like that,"
said the Duke.
"I simply can't afford to keep the place going any longer. And they'll come and close everything down at any time, I'm sure."
The Duke sighed, just giving time for Skeets to catch sight of the puzzled look on the face of the little green man.
"I've tried guided tours and that sort of thing, but the money people pay isn't enough, so the old place will just have to go, I suppose."
said the little green man to Skeets, though the Duke could not hear, of course. He'd gone over to the window and was looking across the courtyard, which gave Skeets time to finish his conversation with the little green man. When he'd finished, he ran across to the Duke and cried, "Oh, don't give up, Duke. I can find lots of help for you. Next week is a holiday week. Why not have a week-long carnival with competitions and games and sideshows, eh? Let's have dungeon discos and someone can make tea and buns and jam and my Uncle Jim will organise a fishing competition in the moat." The Duke beamed.
Do you think it would work?"
He asked.
"Oh, I'm sure it would,"
cried Skeets, and he danced round and round with the delighted Duke. Skeets enlisted the help of two of his friends, and between them they found a great deal of help in the shape of mothers and fathers, aunts and uncles, and many, many friends. Notices went out everywhere, and soon everyone in the area was talking about the holiday week fair to be held at the castle. Skeets and the little green man and Zoom Zoom found lots of jobs to do, the most exciting of which was erecting the huge marquees. Soon, the great first day arrived, and the people crowded into the castle and the castle grounds until the place was jam-packed. Zoom Zoom had a wonderful time pretending to be a ghost. He wriggled into a white sheet and flew around, much to the delight of the visitors. When they got too close, he ducked away, leaving the sheet for the mystified people to find, and promptly found another one. Skeets' mum organised the Happy Baby contest with her friends, whilst his Uncle Jim enjoyed every minute running the angling contest. Skeets put on a special magic show, which astounded his audience, though he had lots of help from the little green man, of course. So you will not be surprised to hear that Skeets astounded himself with his magic now and then. Perhaps the dungeon disco was the greatest attraction of all. Needless to say, the Little Green Man and Zoom Zoom found it a must to try out disco dancing. The friends and relatives brought along by Skeets and the girls were staffing sideshows of every description, and the visitors had a wonderful time. And it went on for the whole week. Every day the people returned and brought more and more of their friends with them. By Saturday, they were saying it had become better and better every day, and that the Duke must have another carnival next holiday. The Duke was absolutely delighted. He opened up the old counting house, which had been closed for hundreds of years, to store away the money safely.
I don't know how to thank you, he said. There's enough money here to last the whole year round, and the people seem to have enjoyed themselves immensely.
Oh, we've all enjoyed helping to organize it too, said Skeets.
I hope I've thanked every one of your relatives and friends for their help, said the Duke. But everywhere there seemed to be extraordinary things happening which no one seemed to do. It was almost as though we had an invisible little man using his magical powers to make sure we were successful. Don't you think so, Skeets? Didn't it seem to you like that?
Oh, you might say that, said Skeets, quite flabbergasted.
Well, thank you, little invisible man. If you are listening, said the Duke.
The Little Green Man and Zoom Zoom were certainly listening. Zoom Zoom looped around with pleasure, whilst the Little Green Man rolled on his back, hooting with delight at this funny piece of guesswork. The Little Green Man sat up. He said, "Well, really?"